Florida is known for some of the best theme parks and attractions in the world. Really though, outside of Central Florida, you would be hard-pressed to find a permanent roller coaster. In the year 2000, that would change, when the Dania Beach Hurricane opened, the tallest wooden roller coaster in the state. A ride that would operate for just over 10 years before being abandoned, next to the interstate for nearly as long. Growing up in Pittsburgh, Jules Ross rode the Thunderbolt, the Jackrabbit, and the Racer near his home as often as he possibly could. The 3 wooden coasters left a lasting impression on him. After college in the early 70s, he began working during the day as a purchasing agent selling fuel rods for nuclear generators. During the night, he was working on plans for what he really wanted to do: create his own family entertainment center. After moving to Florida in 1972, Ross opened Grand Prix Race-O-Rama at Hacienda Village, later known as Davie. A small amusement park featured 6 go-kart tracks and an arcade with 10 video games. More and more video games were added, and it became a top spot for fans of arcades. The large grey stone castle at US 441 and State Road 84 in Davie would become a recognizable landmark for 15 years, with many fans throughout the area. In 1986, Grand Prix Race-O-Rama was forced to close, to make way for a 4-level interchange of Interstate 595. Everything inside was auctioned off, and the State Department of Transportation paid the 3 owners, including Ross, $3.1 million for their loss of the building and 4 acres of land. Everything from the arcade machines, the animatronic monkeys, and the go-karts were auctioned, and the largest video arcade in the southeast was closed. Before closing, the company spent around 2 years trying to relocate the arcade, but failed when they ran into zoning and building problems. Instead, they would have to use the money the owners of the original site got from the sale to purchase the struggling Malibu Grand Prix next to Interstate 95, between Sterling and Griffin Roads in Broward County, and start again. The new site would have around 55 arcade games, 1/10 of the original Race-O-Rama. Over the years, they would expand the park they purchased to have over 1,000 arcade games, 5 miniature golf courses, and a NASCAR track. The park even had a 260-foot bungee jump until Florida banned bungee jumping in 1991. The family fun park was again a big hit with locals. South Florida had no permanent roller coaster amusement parks, and roller coaster fans would have to head to Central Florida to get their thrills. In 1992, Jules Ross and Ron Mogerman began talking about their plans to turn Grand Prix Race-O-Rama into a fully fledged amusement park. To start, they would make plans during summer '92 to add a log flume, Ferris wheel, bumper boats, and more to the park. The owners had always had plans to turn the go-kart, mini-golf, and arcade attraction into a full amusement park, and had been testing the waters with the bungee crane, batting cages, and a twirling ride called the Enterprise. They had the location, good neighbors who wouldn't object, and enough distance from Walt Disney World to make it a reality. While the plans were not confirmed yet, in their mind, it would 100% include a roller coaster in the future. A different kind of coaster was added with thrills in 1993, the $220,000, 180-foot tall Sky Coaster. This Sky Coaster used the park's former bungee jumping tower. As the park continued to expand, the owners continued to try and work out a plan to install a roller coaster. One addition that would become the most recognized would be the SV Submarinaut, moved to the site from the extinct Six Flags Atlantis. The park was now welcoming over 2 million visitors a year and had no plans to slow down. Headquartered in Orange County, California, Palace Entertainment was created by amusement park pioneer William Al Rameson in 1998. Rameson, who started the Camelot and Castle amusement park chains before selling his interest, would acquire them back with help from Windward Capital Partners, a New York investment firm. They would also purchase the Huish Family Fun Centers and Grand Prix Race-O-Rama. The new company would now be the owner and operator of over 14 family fun parks, and shortly after they would add to this by buying the nearby Boomers Park, that had just opened 4 years earlier in Boca Raton. Each park that was sold stated they did not have enough capital to continue expanding the parks as much as they would like, and with the sale, these parks would continue to thrive. After purchasing the parks, Palace Entertainment originally stated they would not rename them to keep their identity, but later each was rebranded under the Boomers brand. Grand Prix Race-O-Rama became Boomers Dania Beach. Jules Ross, however, was not leaving the park completely. With the sale, he made provisions to lease 3 acres right next to the park to build his planned roller coaster, under a brand new company formed with his longtime lawyer. Nearly a decade in the planning, on November 1st, 2000, South Florida would be hit by another hurricane. Though, as newspapers reported, one that most people would love getting blown away by. Costing $4.5 million to build, much of which came from the sale of the park, the Dania Beach Hurricane would be South Florida's only full-scale permanent roller coaster, and one of only a handful of wooden roller coasters in the state, the others being the recently opened Gwazi and the Starliner at Panama City Beach. The new attraction was designed by park manager Andy Hyman with help by Coaster Works Inc. Founded in 1998, the new Tennessee-based Coaster Works Inc., a company that was new but ran by veteran designers, helped create their second ever roller coaster, the Hurricane, with their first being the Thunder Eagle in Pigeon Forge. Coaster Works Inc. had purchased and restored classic coasters heading to the junkyard before creating their own. The company would also design a never-built Jurassic Park coaster for Islands of Adventure. Coaster Works president George Labe said that the coaster would resemble the Predator, a wooden roller coaster in New York, but this brand new coaster in Florida would trump it in size and speed. For the Hurricane, it was constructed with a 30-member crew, 20 of which were local workers, putting it together piece by piece using 1 million board feet of wood, 50,000 nuts and bolts, and 8 million pounds of concrete. The wood used for the attraction was mostly southern yellow pine that was shipped to Florida from a mill in Montreal. The 3,200-foot long, 100-foot tall coaster, making it the tallest wooden roller coaster in the state, reached speeds of up to 55 miles per hour, lasting a little under 2 minutes on its double out and back layout full of airtime. The ride was built to sustain 110 mile per hour winds by using concrete foundations that were broad and shallow to stay in South Florida's sandy soil. The builders also stated that they had used more steel angles and clips at critical juncture points than nearly every other wooden roller coaster in the United States. The Dania Beach Hurricane could definitely withstand a real hurricane. With 2 Philadelphia toboggan trains, the first rides on the new attraction were sold at an auction, with bidders spending hundreds of dollars for the chance to be on the opening ride, the profits from which were sent to charity. The total raise was $7,000, and the first riders included Miami Dolphin Hall of Famer Dwight Stevenson and Todd Tongan of ABC. The coaster was a big success at opening, with many praising its airtime, smooth ride, and most importantly, there was finally a coaster for South Florida.
First hill you'll climb on the Hurricane. It's 100 feet to the top, and once they let you go, you'll hit speeds of 60 miles an hour.
Charging $6.25 a ride, Ross and his business partner said that the opening of the Hurricane is the first in a series of 5 wooden coasters they plan to build, including one in Northwest Florida. None of the others would be built. After a successful start, the Dania Beach Hurricane's ticket sales began to slow. It didn't help that the company were also extremely busy in court. Several companies filed cases totaling around $280,000 for work they were not paid during the construction of the coaster. One firm sought $70,000 for steel supply to build parts for the ride, and they were asking the judge to order the sale of the land on which the coaster sat on if necessary to pay the amount owed. Other companies, including the Anchor Petroleum Professional Foundations and a concrete pumping business from Miami. Jules Ross placed the blame on the contractor that built the coaster, Coaster Works Inc., for the messing core. Ross, who was named in the suit, said the company couldn't finish the job within its budget and owed them for the extra parts and labor. The owners had to come up with an additional $355,000 to pay Coaster Works to finish the project. And even with this, it was completed 4 months behind schedule and over the budget agreed on. Ross wasn't worried about the outcome and had the insurance he needed. While ticket sales had slowed, it was still exceeding expectations, and they said it was on track to have 1 million riders in its first year. Coaster Works Inc. would not make a third roller coaster, and the company ceased operation in 2002. The Hurricane continued to operate separately from the Boomers Park. In 2001, the coaster held a coaster challenge. 30 winners were given the chance to climb on board and ride the coaster for 48 hours, with only 15-minute breaks every 2 hours to eat provided food. Whoever lasted till the end would be able to win a 2001 blue Kia Rio, which was hanging from a crane nearby to promote the competition. If more than one person was left after 48 hours, a draw would decide the winner. South Florida's only permanent roller coaster continued to operate and become loved by locals and those who rode it, a landmark next to the interstate for those driving past and seeing the looming 100-foot structure on 95. As the years went by, the ride had its loyal fans, but began making less and less profit. After 11 years of operation, the general manager of Dania Coaster Limited, the company which operated and owned the ride, said the bad economy would be the end for the Hurricane. The attraction was just no longer viable to operate. They notified Boomers, which the site was leased from, that the coaster would be closing forever in just 3 days. Some hoped that another owner would come in and keep it running. However, city planners said it was unlikely, as they had been eyeing the site for some time to be redeveloped, saying its closure was inevitable. The Dania Beach Hurricane closed forever on April 26, 2011, stating the recession as the main reason for its closure. The general manager of Boomers at the time stated he was sorry to see it go, but it's not a part of Boomers, and Boomers will be okay. What would happen to the coaster was undecided. The company filed for bankruptcy. During 2011, the Broward County Tax Department ordered the coaster to be auctioned off to the highest bidder because the company owed $9,800 in outstanding taxes. The auction was set, but the Dania Woody LLC paid back the taxes at the last moment, cancelling the auction. When the ride closed, it was in top condition, but after a year of sitting abandoned, the owner said it would cost $10 million to renovate to a working state. After standing but not operating, the ride owners began to look at options for the attraction. The parts of the coaster were worth millions of dollars, so they began looking for a non-profit group willing to take on dismantling the coaster to either sell it for salvage parts or repair it and move the coaster elsewhere. It was later confirmed in 2012 that the ride would be sold for scrap to help fund a local charity. Boomers would combine the land with some of their unused land after it was gone and sell it to a retailer to develop. The Dania Beach Hurricane continued to sit abandoned, standing but not operating. Its demolishment never coming. In 2014, the coaster still sat among 100 acres of land that Bob Shapiro, a developer, planned to turn into the Dania Live Marketplace, a 1.3 million square foot open-air shopping center. The 4-acre site that Boomers had sold to the developer for $29 million was not all they wanted. The Boomers Dania Park would join the abandoned roller coaster. Palace Entertainment sold the site to the developer for their new project. The whole amusement park would be torn down along with the long abandoned coaster. Most of the assets from Boomers were sent to the other properties of the company, closing its doors forever on January 25, 2015, with a large turnout, many of which who grew up coming to the attraction visiting for one final time. While the park and the coaster were expected to be torn down right away, the day it happened took longer and longer to come. In 2016, after 5 years of being abandoned next to the interstate, the Dania Beach Hurricane would finally be removed.
Time to move on a little bit, and the revenue base is going to come to the city to get more things for the public safety and the elderly. Kind of exciting, actually, but there's always an emotional thought when you break something up. But all of us will heal.
Heavy machinery dug into the once iconic wooden coaster and it fell for the final time. Both were replaced with a new shopping mall called Dania Point.
A great boon for the community, and it would be great tax revenue with great jobs. And I know many people might be sad that they're going to lose the roller coaster, but at the end of the day, we are a growing population in South Florida. This location being next to I-95 is just too valuable.
The Dania Beach Hurricane will always be remembered as an iconic attraction that sat next to Interstate 95, one you couldn't miss while driving past. While once the location was deemed perfect for the ride, it would ultimately also spell its downfall, with developers looking for places to create new retail experiences. Once the tallest wooden coaster in Florida, the Dania Beach Hurricane had a troubled lifetime, but had its memorable moments. From the 48-hour competition, couples getting married while riding, and a number of TV commercials shot on the ride, it once even ranked as one of the top 20 wooden coasters in the US. During the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, many people made memories not just on the coaster, but at Grand Prix, Race-O-Rama, and Boomers. A place that always tried to offer something unique in South Florida that sadly failed. What started out as a dream of Jules Ross quickly became a memory. When he was asked why he built a wooden coaster, Ross said that he never doubted for a minute that the hurricane of his dreams would be a wooden one. Ever since, he spent time riding them over and over back in Pennsylvania. He loved how wooden coasters magnify the ride's sounds, creaking up to the top of the drops, the airtime, and the feel as it hurtles down the curves and hills. With a wooden coaster, the ride is different every time, and he wanted to bring that to the families of South Florida. For 11 years, he did, before it was left abandoned and replaced by another mall. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Extinct. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to join the expedition. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on upcoming episodes, and a special thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. We will see you next time.